Aloha, what's up everyone? Welcome to my channel. I'm JayDreamerZ, and today we're going to be talking about a specific part of my theory on the plasma apocalypse, and it's about the destroyer. It's about the blue sun. So I'm going to go into it. It's a little more advanced, but I'll try to catch everybody up as best as I can. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for all of the support, and it's good to see everybody in the chat. Also, hang out after this presentation, and after the credits roll, I'll be coming back so that you guys can ask questions or we can talk about the presentation together. All right, sweet, right on. Well, thank you all for showing up. Let's get right into some of the information here. So I'm going to start off with a primer. Okay, I'm going to catch you up, and we'll do like last time on JayDreamerZ. All right, so we talk about the plasma apocalypse on my channel quite often. There are two different types of apocalyptic cycles. One by water, right, when the world is flooded and destroyed by water. The other one is by fire, and the world is physically burned with fire. So we've already gone through a water one, being that the oceans are still here as proof of that last deluge. So now we're going to focus on by fire. We're going to talk about the fire apocalypse. Where does this fire come from? Obviously, there's always going to be fire in the form of plasma coming down from the plasma sphere above as it seeks to ground itself after the neutralization point or the neutral point of our world's electromagnetic field that protects us from that plasma around our world. So now we're going to talk about the fire one, right? The water one happens whenever the sun, the ancients used to watch the sun during the winter solstice, and they would see it getting further and further away. They'd keep their eyes on it right around the winter solstice to see if it was going to come back. If it did not come back and it kept on going, and in addition, I believe it increases in size and starts to turn more of a red color. But if they started to see that, they knew what they were in for. They knew it was the winter apocalypse. They knew that the floods would be coming. They knew that the pillars of heaven would fall down to the earth, and that the oceans above would fall down as well. So that's the one we've already gone through. That's the one when that point of focus that we call the sun, right? I call it a point of focus. That's whenever it expands and it goes further and further and further out due to, I believe so far, the plasma tube around our world, or the plasma streams that are outside of our world in what is known as the plasmasphere in modern academics. It pulsates. And whenever it goes to its widest pulse, it puts the sun the furthest away. Right? So the ancients would watch that during the wintertime. But the opposite happens during the summer solstice, the summer apocalypse, if you will. And that happens whenever that plasma tubing above us, or those plasma streams around us, are at their smallest, when they contract and they get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it doesn't pulse back out. It just continues to go until eventually it goes into flux. And that's the one that we're going to be talking about today. I will be giving some sort of mechanical examples for you that I've drawn out. But right now I'm going to pull up my screen sharing, and we're going to jump right into some of these myths and legends about the sun possibly having something to do with destroying the world and bringing fire to the earth. The sun touching down. Keep in mind, there are lots of myths and legends about this, or that reference the sun crashing into the earth, or touching the earth, or scarring, or burning the earth. And, there's many ways that people interpret these. So I'm going to share my interpretations with you. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and get the pictures pulled up here. All right, we're going to start with the Bible prophecy. We're going to go over quite a few prophecies in this particular episode. Let me just check the chat just to make sure there's no emergencies. Everybody can hear me. Looks good. I don't see anything. All right, sweet. I'm going to assume everything's good, and we're just going to keep going forward. All right, sweet. So here we have from the book of Revelation. This is chapter 16. And in the book of Revelation, it talks about how there are these trumpets, and 7 trumpets and 7 bowls, and stuff like that basically are symbolic signals or events that happen in a particular order, right? That usher in this sort of apocalypse and going into the post-apocalyptic world. So in reference to the bowls, the 7 bowls that are poured out, the 4th bowl specifically, the Bible says this: "Then the 4th angel poured out his bowl over the sun, and it was given power to scorch the people with fire. And the people were scorched by intense heat. This is directly from the Bible that says that the sun will burn human beings on this planet, that the power and the strength of the sun itself will become so magnified that it will actually start cooking. I mean, it's kind of cooking now, right? Like I just leave my hand out of the window in the car and it microwaves my arm real quick. But this is an interesting Bible prophecy that directly calls this out, that says that the sun, according to the book of Revelation at least, will definitely burn and scorch the earth. I'll probably have to do, I would like to do a whole segment on the book of Revelation one of these days, just kind of going over it and talking about the chronology and the symbolism and stuff. But for right now, that will suffice. We're going to move forward. All right. Now, I would like to give you one of my ideas here, which is that you have the Christ, right? When referencing Jesus, or I mean, there's many different Christ-like figures throughout religion and history. Jesus is probably the most popular or the most well-known of those. You have the Christ figures, and then you have those that are the anti-Christ figures, right? So most people that I've met seem to believe that anti-Christ just means that they're against the Christ, that basically that they hate the Christ or something like that, right? But we're going to look at this from a cosmological viewpoint. We're going to look at this through cosmology to see what these things might represent. So I've talked about many times on my channel the blue beam, or that inner earth energy that comes up from the core, which we'll talk about, the core of the earth, or the inner earth sun, or the inner earth plasma, energy, electricity, however you'd like to see it. And that manifests every other cycle, shooting up through all of the cavernous recesses inside of the earth. Those that make their way up to the surface where we live, they will emanate that light. They will emanate that plasma, filling our world for an age full of goodness and magic and spirit and energy, to the point where the world to come will remind us and look more like the world of the fantastic that we only can experience these days through movies, so that we can tap into our collective subconscious and remember the old ways. So we've got Christ and Antichrist, the light and the anti-light, or the shine and the anti-shine. So what does the word anti mean exactly? This is a website called etymonline.com. I know somebody was interested to see what website this was in the chat. etymonline.com. So it's the etymology dictionary. And under anti, it says it's from the Proto-Indo-European root word anti, which means against, but it also means in front of or before. And it's from the root word ant, just like an ant on the ground, like a little insect. And that means front or forehead, with derivatives meaning in front of or before, as in to come before or to precede, right? In Italian, it would be anti, like antipasta, right? So antipasta is the meal that was served before the main course. It was like a beginner meal, I guess. Anyways, so that was what anti means. So it is a light that comes before the healing light. It is a destructive light that comes before the saving light, or the magic giving light, or the energy generating light. It is a destructive light, the Antichrist, the Christ that comes before the healer, the real Christ, right? Now we go back to the book of Daniel in the Bible, and here's a quote from chapter 9, verse 27. It says, this is in reference to said Antichrist. And it says, "He shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week." Now, these lengths of time are the subject of speculation and debate in various religious fields, so I'm not going to get into that too much right now. But it says, "He'll confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured out upon the desolate." I'm going to rephrase that into my own language, because that's kind of hard to understand in this old way of speaking. It says, for the overspreading of abominations. That means because the earth became so bad, so corrupt, because human beings specifically, right? But I mean, I guess you know what? I'm not going to say human beings. I guess it would be just the general energy of the earth, but we're a part of that, right? And in the Bible, it's specifically calling out the humans and their moral character or their moral degradation. For the overspreading of abominations, that means because you were so evil, because in general, mankind became so fallen, so despicable, so base, he shall make it desolate. That means whoever he is, the Antichrist, is going to make the earth desolate. That means empty. That means removing people from it, right? And objects and other things, even until the consummation, which means this event that causes desolation is going to continue all the way up until the consummation. Consummation is it's a bigger form of the word consume, the eating. When the sky god opens its mouth, or a hole opens up in our sky, the world depressurizes, there's an increased buoyancy factor, huge hurricane force winds or stronger are blowing across the world, everything's getting sucked up, and it looks like the sky god is eating his own children. Or her own children, however you'd like to see it. That's the consummation. It's also in reference to fire and a conflagration, which means fire is eating everything. Everything is on fire. And that determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. So these things are going to happen to those who remain in a desolate wilderness or on the earth, right? All right, so it goes on to say, and now you know what is restraining, right? There is something that is holding something back. Well, let me see where this is. Hold on, I skipped to a different book here in the Bible. This is from 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. It's called the Great Apostasy, or the Great Falling Away. And it's in reference to the falling away of the goodness of the world. The good people in the world dwindle and dwindle and dwindle as the world becomes more immoral and more corrupt and more degraded, right? So the author goes on to say, do you not remember when I was still with you? I told you these things. And now you know what is restraining. And now you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work, right? It's a mystery why the world falls into an entropic state, right? Entropy is kicked in, taken over. Everything's falling apart. And seems to be falling apart faster as we get to that point, right? The mysteries of lawlessness, that's the falling, the entropy factor, is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way, and then the lawless one will be revealed, right? Something that is magnifying, something that is increasing the entropy in this world, something that is adding to and amplifying the energy that exists already within this world. Now, if you look at things from an astrological point of view, or astrology, right? The sun is the main influencer on all of the stars, on all of the signs, on all of the planets, and even the moon, but especially the earth too, and those who live on it. Goes on to say, the coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan. Now, Satan, that's the typical devil, adversary, bad guy, something that opposes goodness and purity and wholesomeness and righteousness, right? The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan with all powers, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of truth, that they might be saved. And for this reason, God will send them. And in this case, I'm gonna say that well, actually, I'm not gonna expound upon that. Hold on, maybe just continue on with this. For this reason, God will send them, the evil people of the world, okay? The bad people, the immoral people, the corrupt people. He will send them strong delusion that they should believe the lie, that they may be, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. What does that mean in layman's terms? That means that the times would come, when the author wrote this, he knew that the time would come long into the future, way far off into the distance of time, that the world would become degraded, that morality itself would get worse and worse and worse. And because of this, the people start to believe in falsehoods. They start to believe in lies. They come up with their own make-believe stories and become convinced by those stories, forgetting the substance of the old ways and our actual history that's been hidden from us. And they believe it. And they believe it so much that they'll fight for it. I'm now quoting the Matrix, but that's a good part of the Matrix, right? All right, cool. Let me go ahead and get that one off here. I've got a lot of web pages open, so I'm going to close some of these out. All right, we're going to move on to another book in the Bible. This is from Isaiah. Yeah, 14:12 through 15. This is in the book of Isaiah. Now, I will tell you this. If you're interested in the old prophets, specifically in Christianity, who had something to say about the apocalypse or about apocalyptic events, go back to the Old Testament and read all of those prophets, because nearly every single one of those minor and major prophets, they're describing accurately, vividly, the end of their world, or the end of a world as it once was, right? So this one right here, because we were talking about Satan, right, and its correlation with the sun and the destroyer coming, etc., right? It says, how you are fallen from heaven. Now, you could replace heaven with sky, or the atmosphere above, or the cosmos, or whatever you'd like to do. How you are fallen from heaven, O day star, son of the dawn. Now, let's check that out. What is the day star? It's the sun. It's the actual sun is the star of the day, right? So Satan, there's a direct correlation here, it seems to me, that somebody, thank you, Alien Guru, appreciate you. Somebody is definitely making a correlation between the sun that is bright and, basically worshipped worldwide for hundreds and hundreds of years with the devil itself, right? How you are fallen from heaven. So the sun getting lower from the sky, okay? How you are fallen from heaven, O day star, son of dawn, or son of the dawn. The sun that brings the dawn, right? We're talking about Satan and the sun being one and the same, basically. At least that's how I'm seeing it. How you are cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low. That reminds me of some Greek legends about the Greek sun god. I think it was Apollo, and he had a protege that wanted to ride his sun chariot, and he's like, I don't think you should do that. It's really dangerous. And the protege was like, oh, I really want to do it. So he lets him. Long story short, this guy crashes the sun chariot into the earth, scorching the earth, which is not just a story, but it's a cartoonification of actual events when people witnessed the sun burning the earth. He says, in regards to Satan, you said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven above the stars of God. I will set my throne on high. I will sit in the mount of the assembly, in the far reaches of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to Sheol, that is the hollow recesses of the earth, to the far reaches of the pit. So let's listen to Satan's word and see what he's saying here. He says he wants to ascend to heaven. He wants to get up to heaven above the stars of God. And he says, I will set my throne on high. Now, there is said to be a throne of God located on earth, basically, that the earth acts as sort of a footstool for God. I've made many cases that I believe Mount Meru is that throne, that is where the light rests, that is the holy mountain where God is seen as living, or a dwelling place for God, right? Or for a form of God, or for an aspect of God, we'll say. I will sit on the mount of the assembly. That's Mount Olympus, okay? Make no mistake. That is Mount Meru. That is the holy mountain at the center of the world. Rupus Nigra, the high and lofty dark mountain, right? The magnetic mountain. That is the mountain of the assembly. That is the mountain that people assemble at. They go to. They land on from above. They come up out of from inside. In the far reaches of the north. Well, of course, that's where Mount Meru is. In the far reaches of the north. The exact north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, and I will make myself like the Most High. Well, who is the Most High? If you put on your plasma apocalypse sunglasses or whatever, right? I make the point for the Most High, or for the God, or for Jesus, or for the light, etc. I feel like many people have seen actual light, right? Actual energy that is earth energy and cosmic energy from above, and they call those gods, right? So this is the throne of God, and Satan wants to take the throne of God. This is the Antichrist. The Christ, the light, the shine, the shimmering, that is what rests on that holy mountain. So we have a different light, right? The day sun, the day star, that it wants to go to Mount Meru, and it wants to take that throne. Okay, let's move forward. Now in the book of Job in the Bible, and we'll finish up our little Bible road. In the book of Job, which is arguably one of the oldest books in the Bible, the Lord said to Satan, "From where have you come?" And Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on the earth, from walking up and down on it." So here's the thing that's being said about the sun, or the son of the morning, right? Or you could say morning as in sadness and stuff like that too. But the sun moves to and fro on the earth. It walks up and down the earth. It continuously is moving around, right? When the true light is more steadfast and immovable. All right, let's see. Also, that kind of reminded me of like when Jesus was tempted by Satan, and Satan took him up to a high and lofty mountain so he could see all of the world. That reminds me a lot of Mount Meru. It could be one and the same. All right, now we're going to move to, we got two more in the Bible. This one's from Daniel chapter 8. I believe this is about the abomination of desolation. So it's talking about how Daniel was approached by, I think it was Gabriel possibly, but it was an angel of God, and he was frightened. He fell on his face, and the angel said to him, son of man, understand that the vision pertains to the time of the end. So Daniel was given a vision of the time that would happen, that we're fast approaching, which is called the time of the end, or the Great Reset. The vision pertains to the time of the end. Now, while he was talking with me, I sank into a deep sleep with my face to the ground, but he touched me and he made me stand upright. He said, behold, I'm going to let you know what will occur at the final period of the indignation, for it pertains to the appointed time of the end. Basically, this angel is like, hey, pay attention. I'm about to tell you how the world's going to end and how it's going to start over again. The ram that you saw in your vision with the two horns represents the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy goat represents the kingdom of Greece, and the large horn that's between its eyes is the first king. The broken horn and the four horns that arise in its place represent four kingdoms, which will arise from his nation, although not with his power. In the later period of their rule, when the transgressors have run their course, a king will arise, insolent and skilled in intrigue. His power will be mighty, but not by his own power, and he will destroy to an extraordinary degree and prosper and perform his will, and he will destroy mighty men and the holy people. And through his shrewdness, he will cause deceit to succeed by his influence. You see that word right there? Influence. That's what reminded me of astrology and how the sun is the strongest of all of the influencers. I mean, the sun is the original influencer. Like, you know how we say influencer on YouTube and stuff like that, right? Well, the sun is the strongest and oldest of all. The sun is like one of the original influencers, right? Now check this out. It says, he will cause deceit to succeed by his influence, and he will magnify himself in his heart. Right? So magnified, like whenever you take a magnifying glass outside in the sunlight and it creates a little laser or a beam that starts burning stuff, right? That's what that reminds me of. He will destroy many while they are at ease. That's the world we live in now. Even though there's a lot of turmoil and spiritual chaos and stuff, in essence, we live comfortably in comparison to those who lived 1,000 years ago with modern conveniences and whatnot. He will even oppose the prince of princes. That is the Antichrist versus the Christ, right? That's the great war between the two. It says that the one will oppose the other or face off. It's the great face off. But he will be broken without human agency. This means for all the people that are thinking the governments are going to try to set up Project Bluebeam and the government's in control and they're trying to tamper with this and that, This particular reference is saying that humankind has nothing to do with this. This is a cosmic battle. This is a spiritual battle between gods, basically. He will even oppose the Prince of Princes. He will be broken without human agency. The vision of the evenings and the mornings, which has been told, is true. But keep the vision secret, for it pertains to many days in the future. And last but not least, Daniel also, in Daniel, we read, rumors from the east. This is about that same Antichrist type of figure. Rumors from the east and from the north will disturb him, and he will go forth with great wrath to destroy and annihilate many. He will pitch the tents. This is about to tell you where the sun is going to go, where it's going to rest and call home, right? It wants to take over the home of the original light. It wants to replace it, or at least that's how it's seen to the people back then. He will pitch the tents of his royal pavilion between the seas and the beautiful holy mountain. That gives us a location right there. There is a mountain that is between the seas. That's Mount Meru. Yet he will come to his end, and no one will help him. That is also the place where he dies. Okay, that's where this Antichrist type of a figure, this is where he dies and disappears and is replaced by the true successor, or by the true light, by the true blue beam. All right, cool. This was really interesting too. I found a prophecy by a Native American whose name was Handsome Lake. And apparently he wrote an entire book filled with various prophecies, predictions, and just his general insight about the condition of humanity and his people versus the people of the world today. And he says this about when he thinks that the world will end. He says, now, we think that when the end comes, the earth will be destroyed by fire, and not one upon it will escape, for all the earth will be enveloped in flames, and all those who refuse to believe in Gai Wiiu will be in it. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. This is also related to like various other Native American texts, and basically they talk about how it's not really everyone who's killed. It's all of those who don't practice their ways. Okay, all of those who have not been grafted in to the native ways of life, into that native tribe, into the old ways of survival. Right? Those people who still practice the old ways of being self-reliant and growing food out of the ground and things like that, it says that they're more inclined basically to be survivors. Now, this is really interesting too. I just saw this article, so I'm going to segue for a second into something else, but it's definitely related. It's about the magnetic reversal. It's about the North Pole and how the North Pole is, or the magnetic North Pole, is busy traveling, right, all the way up towards the true north. Right now, I believe it just passed it, and I have a theory that it's probably going to bend back around and spiral into and rest at the actual North Pole. That's my theory. But it says here, the Earth's inner core. Okay, so now we're looking at this from an academic standpoint, because academics teaches and believes that the Earth is like this solid magma rock or whatever. It's got all these different layers inside of it, and they used to teach that central layer called the core of the Earth was just solid nickel and iron, just solid rock, right? But that's starting to change over time. So you can see this is a great example of how academics at present, whenever that might be, academics doesn't tend to be open-minded. It tends to declare things. It tends to plant a flag and say, this is the fact, right? And they only start to remove that flag and move it a little bit whenever they come across new facts, right? But here we have the Earth's inner core may have stopped turning and could go into reverse. So let's talk about that real quick, right? Man, this whole thing just blows my mind. So if the inner core of the Earth, even in the academic way of seeing it, right? If it begins to slow down, eventually stopping or reversing direction, that's a really good indicator that our world and specifically our electromagnetic field in and around our world is also going to reciprocate that, right? Whatever's happening at the heart is going to spread to the rest of the body. So if the heart of our world is slowing down and starting to reverse, I'm pretty sure, okay, it stands to reason that the electromagnetic grid or field might also be doing that. It might be starting to do that as well. But anyways, here's a video. Let me know if you can hear this. I'm just going to play a little bit of it.
Recreate
and I'll comment as
a
we go
model
along.
of the inside of the Earth.
Oh,
and sure enough, the core is...
We are learning about a shift in the Earth's inner core that sounds like the plot of a Hollywood blockbuster. Scientists say our...
Okay, did you hear that? Hold on, let me, I just want to make sure that you guys can hear the video real quick, because I don't have my phone turned on. I should just turn it on real quick and check. Oh, you can? Is it good? Everything's good? Okay, sweet. All right, thank you. Thank you so much, everybody in the chat, for letting me know that you can hear the video. I'm going to go ahead and play it. Now, did you hear what she said? She says this sounds more like a Hollywood blockbuster movie. Yes, the closer we get to the reset point, the more this world is going to go nuts and start looking just like all of our wildest dreams and movies and stuff, because it's going to start going into flux itself. The world will literally and actually and physically be out of control, or it will seem that way, right? There will be many changes that are happening faster and faster as time goes forward. She says it's starting to look like a Hollywood blockbuster movie. That's exactly why I do a segment called Truth in the Movies. Right? Because they reflect back to me, at least, these ancient truths that I have studied time and time again, from religion to myths to legends to so many other things, right? All right, let's continue.
Planet's solid core, which is actually disconnected from the rest of the Earth's layers, may actually have stopped rotating and could even reverse course. This is a new...
All right, now, I'm going to correct her real quick, okay? She referred to it still. And keep in mind, there's who knows how many millions of people just listen to her say this, and then they're just going to believe it blindly, right? They're just going to take it on faith. She said the solid core of the Earth has stopped. I'm going to rewind it just in case you missed it.
New study was published Monday in the journal Nature Geo. Actually disconnected. We are learning about a shift in the Earth's inner core that sounds like the plot of a Hollywood blockbuster. Scientists say our planet's solid core, which is...
Scientists... Bing! First red flag, okay? She should be more honest, okay? If it was me, I would have said something a little more accurate, like some scientists, you know, or these scientists, etc. But instead, she just gives it an overall vague generality of scientists. That's an all-encompassing way to say that. Basically, what you're doing is you're speaking for and attributing this discovery or whatever to every scientist on Earth. I am a scientist, okay? And there's many other out there like me, or you know, well beyond my practices and stuff like that. But that's how she started off. Scientists have found, or scientists, whatever she said, right?
Actually disconnected from the... We are learning about a shift in the Earth's inner core that sounds like the plot of a Hollywood blockbuster. Scientists say our planet's solid core, which is
our planet's solid core. So scientists, these invisible entities that I have no idea who they are, who they work for, what kind of studies they have, what kind of practice they have. I don't know these scientists. She's just saying scientists, right? Just so that you just shut up and just listen to the rest of the presentation and just trust that some scientists out there are working on all these deep philosophical and cosmological views, so you don't have to work it out for yourself.
Actually disconnected from the rest of the Earth's layers, may actually have stopped rotating and could even reverse course.
It has stopped rotating and could even reverse course. Okay, that's interesting.
This is a new study. It was published Monday in the journal Nature Geoscience, and its authors, who are based in Beijing, took a very close look at the seismic waves from earthquakes that have passed through our planet's core since the 1960s, and that is how they were able to calculate the speed.
Okay, blah, 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 blah. Let me just sum up what she just said. She just puked all over everybody, okay? I feel like, this is my perspective, okay, but I feel... Given my experience with the general public for so long, I feel like that went way over a lot of people's heads. Okay, so I'm gonna interpret what she's saying for you.
Based in Beijing, took a very close look at the seismic waves from earthquakes that have...
Okay, so basically, the question that a child would ask, and your average person should ask, and the question I definitely would ask, is how on earth are you way up at the surface and you're telling me about the core of the Earth that is thousands of miles inside of the earth that you cannot get to, that you can't go anywhere near. At least that's what you say, right? So now she's trying to like make this make sense to the general public. So they go, oh yeah, oh, I get it. Okay. Scientists. Yeah. Seismic waves. Okay. Right. I'm not saying that it's not true. I believe there's truth to everything. But what I am saying is she sure is skimming over a lot of questions.
Passed through our planet's course since the 1960s, and that is how they were able to calculate the speed.
So since the 1960s, they've been bombarding the planet with these vibrations or measuring earthquakes, etc. And they believe that they originate with the core, as academics teaches, of our world.
Speed at which the inner core is spinning. Are you confused? I am.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not confused. I'm tracking. I see that she is confused. Right? And do you see how they put that in there? Are you confused? I am. She's saying, are you confused? It's okay if you're confused because I'm confused too. Oh man, let me bring in an expert so he can unconfuse us. All right, let's check out Michiacho Kapaka Chuku or whatever.
We're going to get to understand this a little bit better with our guest. Let's bring in Michio Kaku. He's a professor of theoretical physics at the City University of New York. Professor.
Okay, we're going to bring in Michio Kaku. I don't know how to say his name, which is he's a professor of theoretical physics. That means you're a professional guesser, just so you know. I'm also a professor of theoretical physics. I just don't have, I don't care about little receipts and coupons and certificates and diplomas and whatever degrees and stuff like that others are handed to be approved. I approved of myself.
Professor, good morning. Thank you.
Morning. Glad to be on.
What does this mean?
Well, at first it sounds like something from a Hollywood movie.
Right.
There it is again.
Oh my God, the core of the earth is spinning
movie thing.
backwards.
He repeated it.
I mean, this is worse than having a tsunami or an earthquake.
This is worse than having a tsunami or an earthquake. Okay, it's pretty big.
The stability of what you walk on is at stake. Now, this report comes not from Hollywood. It comes from reputable scientists at Beijing University.
Reputable scientists from Beijing University. When they say stuff like, oh, it comes from reputable scientists, what that means is scientists that me and my people, me and my group, my team, we have already approved of them. Okay. Non-reputable ones are ones that they don't agree with. People who have ideas, theories, worldviews, etc., that do not line up with the current academic models that are taught. Or the current guesses that are guessed at.
Echoes. When an earthquake takes place, shock waves go reverberating around the inside of the earth. And by analyzing these echoes with computers, you can recreate a model of the inside of the earth.
Okay, so that sounds pretty far-fetched. I'm shooting from the hip right now. Okay, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying your professional explanation of like how these reputable scientists know about like what the core is made out of the earth is that we've been listening to earthquake echoes for like the past 50, 60 years or something.
And sure enough, the core seems to be about to spin backwards.
Okay. Oh, sure enough, it's about to spin backwards. Echoes, boom, there you go.
But I read that this happens every 70 years.
I read that this happened every 70 years. Okay, well, then why are we acting like it's big news? Why aren't we just like, hey, yeah, the Earth's core is about to flip around again. No problem. Just like to talk about the sun and its cycles and its other things too, right? Let me see if there's anything else I want to do.
We don't need to be alarmed?
I'm going to skip forward.
That's right. The bad news is that we know very little about the core.
Wait a minute.
About to
Listen to what she says.
Backwards.
Okay. But I read that this happens every 70 years, so we don't need to be alarmed?
That was a question. We don't need to be alarmed? Question mark? Right? She's asking, should this alarm us? Is this going to cause devastation, desolation, catastrophes? That's what she's asking.
That's right. The bad news.
That's right, he says. You don't have to be alarmed. No problem. The Earth's core is flipping around totally fine. I'm sure, the North Magnetic Poles quickly on the freeway back to the North Pole. The Earth's weather patterns are getting more destructive and violent and rapid and frequent. And you don't have to be alarmed. That's totally fine.
Is that we know very little about the core of the Earth.
And there it is. You hear that? We know very little about the core of the Earth. That's another all-encompassing word. When you say things, when people say things like we, that's a team mentality. And it's usually, from my experience, not very accurate, okay? If you're including the entire world's population and you say we, I'm not in that. So you can't say we. I'm an exception. So now all you need is one exception to the rule. And it's no longer, you shouldn't be using the word we. Otherwise, you should specify, or I should specify, and I would hope others would too. Who do you mean by we? What they mean is Babylon. What they mean is Akkad, or academics, or academia, right? That's who they mean by we. Those people who control me and the other puppets. Those people who say what is good and what is not believable. That's what they mean when they say we.
Very little about what's underneath our feet.
They know very little. That's the other thing he said. We know very little about the Earth's core, but you know enough to start telling me that it's flipping around and what it's doing and what it's made out of and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like this is kind of contradictory, but let's continue.
The good news is probably there's nothing to worry about.
Okay, time out. Wait a minute. The good news is there's probably nothing to worry about. That's good news. The good news is there probably won't be an apocalyptic event. The bad news is there probably will be an apocalyptic event. If you say probably no, it's also probably yes. Isn't that true? Right? Hold on, let me check the chat. Just make sure we're good. We're good. We're totally good. All right, cool. Let me jump back in here. We're listening to Professor Michiachu Kapachu, who is an approved academic professional guesser, who is telling us that they don't know a damn thing about the inside of the Earth, but they're also going to tell us what's happening with the inside of the Earth. So let's see what else he says.
In the sense that roughly every 70 years or so, we're not sure, the center of the Earth does seem to go backwards.
Oh, it does seem to. Does it seem to, or does it? You know what I mean? It's pretty crucial. It's a pretty crucial conjunction.
If this is the core, this is the crust of the Earth that we live on.
Yeah.
So he says crust, I say surface, right?
This is the core of the Earth. The core could move independently of the crust.
Oh, imagine that. The core can move independently of the surface area, right? Kind of like what these ancient legends and stories about people who actually ventured down into the hollow recesses of the Earth saw when they saw what was called the smoky god, which was this sort of plasma entity that was independently spiraling around and providing energy to the inner Earth regions.
That's the key.
So the part we're on.
And here's another thing too. Keep in mind what they're showing you the entire time this dude's talking, okay? They're showing you the cartoon of the globular, spinning and wobbling and tilting and drunken Earth model or whatever, right?
Never moves in reverse.
Yeah, so the core of the Earth sits in a pool of like molasses, and it's able to spin independently of the crust of the Earth.
Okay, I'm just repeating what he said. The core of the Earth sits in like a pool of molasses. All right, sweet. Who just bought some channel membership gifts? Who was that? 4Jax? Thanks, 4Jax. You're awesome. Better jump on them quick. They're
in other words, don't lose any sleep over this.
Don't lose any sleep over it. Totally fine. Everything's fine. Everything's normal. There's a dumpster fire behind me. Like if I had the forethought, I would have put a dumpster fire behind me. Everything's fine. It's okay. Totally fine. The Earth's heart is flipping around and going the other way now.
Probably it's a natural cycle.
Probably just a natural cycle. Probably not also not, right? I mean, it is a natural cycle, I think, but there's a whole lot of speculation and guessing going on.
It takes place probably once every 70 years or so.
It probably takes place right around this time anyway. It's fine.
But we need more data because this is new territory for us.
You do need more data. I totally agree.
Why do we need to know? I mean, they spent a lot of time. They studied earthquakes back to the 60s. Why is it important to know more about this? What are the implications?
I will tell you before they say anything what the implications are. The implications are if the heart changes, the rest of it changes, the body changes, which means us on the surface will start seeing changes in our world. Usually when our world goes through changes, we're so small in that world that those changes surprise us and shock us and scare us and worry us and, right? Who's that? Elish de Avalon. Hey, good to see you. Let's
are
continue on.
potentially enormous, because think of continental drift. Why are the
Okay, think of continental drift, right? That's like, these are not the droids you're looking for. Think of continental drift as we teach it, as we showed you in your elementary schools. Think about that. Don't think about the other theories about how the continents were formed and made and stuff instantaneously, all within like a week's time span. Think about our theories.
continents moving away from each other? What is it?
I would tell you this. I do believe that the Earth grows, right? Every apocalyptic cycle. I do believe the Earth has earthquakes and stuff, but I think, I'm convinced so far, right? That's just me, that the Earth does its growing. It actually gets bigger and wider and stuff like that during these apocalyptic plasma apocalypse events.
Driving it. And also earthquakes, the whole nature of the stability of the planet itself. We know very little about what's underneath our...
You know very little. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm going to jump in there every single time when people say we, and they're including me in that. And I mean, if they don't specify, I'm assuming he means humanity. And since I'm a part of humanity, I object.
Their feet. And that's why this information from echoes, computer analyzed, is very important, because it tells us the future of the Earth.
What questions, finally, Professor, does...
Boom. Hit the nail on the head. The reason it's important is because of prophecy. The reason it's important is because we can see the signs and the omens, and we can predict what is to come.
this leave you with?
Well, it leaves me with the frustration that it's under our feet. It's just, you can almost touch it, but it is thousands of miles distant.
You can almost touch it, but it's thousands of miles away. I love listening to these people like try to explain things and talk and stuff. And I'm not trying to diss the guy or bring him down or bag on the dude or however the kids are saying it these days. It seems like a fun dude to hang out with. I don't know, right? But I am saying clearly there's some fallacies in what you're saying. There's some contradictions and stuff like that.
And we really don't know that much about...
We really don't. Oh, I'm sorry. You really don't.
About our home.
We really don't know about that much about our home. Now, in general, I'm going to agree, right? In general, humanity is pretty stupid. No offense. I'm so sorry. All right. It's just how things are over time. Okay. And it's nothing new. Okay. That's what happens. We fall, right? And when entropy comes into our world, we get dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber. We might advance technologically, but our technological achievements collectively as humankind do not equate to individual intellect. Please keep that in mind.
We know more about other planets than we do about the center of the Earth.
Ah, really? Do you now? You know more about the other planets. Wait, there's like millions and billions of planets allegedly, and they know more about our local ones. Really? Like, okay.
Interesting.
Like Mars, for example, is probably frozen over.
Mars is probably frozen over, just as a heads up, according to this guy, right? I don't believe in Mars as it's presented, but I just think the rest of this is kind of funny.
Not much earthquake activity at all.
Not much earthquakes on Mars. You know what I mean? We've got top men up there monitoring earthquakes.
We know a fair amount about Mars.
Marsquakes.
We know very little about the Earth because the Earth is dynamic. Things are moving and churning at the center of the Earth. That's why we have earthquakes. That's why we...
Notice how I said things. Things are moving and churning.
We have continental drift.
It's all speculation. It's all theory. Okay, which I love. I support it. I support this guy and his worldview and his theories. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with his theories or his worldview. I have my own. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the things that add up to mine, the things that connect, so that I can incorporate it, right? So that we can get a better sense of the bigger picture.
Drift and volcanoes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that was the end of that video. Let me just go ahead and check out this. Actually, you know what? Pretty much the whole article is about that video. So that was enough. Thank you, Professor Michiachu Kaku. So check this out. The core of the Earth. Now, remember the lady said it was solid and all that stuff? Well, just recently, within the past couple years or so, the same group of generalized scientists who are approved by somebody out there are now saying, collectively in academics, right? It's probably not being taught in schools yet or anything, but now they're saying the Earth's core is actually super ionic. And then it's so funny when you do some research on what they mean by super ionic. They're like, it's kind of like a mix between like a solid material and a liquid material, right? Dude, it's plasma. Okay? Like, I mean, that's my perspective, but Jesus, like that you're describing plasma, right? And not only that, but ionic means something is ionized, that it has become charged, okay? And when things become ionized, especially gases, right? They turn into plasma, basically, right? And not only that, but there's so much pressure, allegedly, according to academics, in the center of the world. All of that pressure would instantly, I believe, and I could be wrong on this, so you can check the math if you want to, but I believe that much pressure would actually instantly convert the solid mass of whatever it was, nickel or whatever they said it was made out of, right, into gas. Right? It would actually turn into gas, which means it would expand, which means the earth would blow up, which is crazy. But let's say it wouldn't blow up. Let's say it was just gas, right? Because of so much pressure or whatever. Well, that gas could be ionized, or you could say super ionized or super ionic. Basically, it's a plasma sun inside of our world. Now, here's another thing, and how is that relevant to the destroyer and the dark sun and stuff? It has to do with the polarity shift. These are signs and omens that we can look out for to know what direction our world is heading in and how much time we have before we get to these final events. Here's another article that says, can't see the stars? The night sky is increasingly bright as light pollution intensifies, one study finds. And they show you like the sky. Now, I myself have noticed this, right? I go out every single day. I check out the sky. I watch the night. I see the moon. I'm watching them. I'm examining them personally for my own experience and research. I myself have noticed in the last couple of years, the sky's getting brighter. Like the night sky specifically, the sun is getting brighter. The moon, to me, appears to be getting brighter, and the night sky itself, the backdrop behind all the stars and stuff like that, is no longer just dark black. It's no longer like when there's no moon or anything. Like things are not just pitch black dark any longer, right? That there's this ambient light that's getting brighter and brighter, and it's actually that backdrop that's getting brighter and brighter. It seems to be, right? So here's what this article says. Rapidly growing human-caused light pollution has made the night sky about 10% brighter every single year. So here's what they're trying to say. The sky's getting brighter at nighttime, right? Kind of drowning out some of the, weaker starlight and whatnot. So what they're trying to say is that it's because of all the man-made lights on Earth lighting up the sky, right? You have any idea how far away the sky is, right? I don't know. I feel like things are being amplified in the heavens, and then it's reciprocated down here on the surface where we live, right? So I'm not I'm not fully convinced that house lights and traffic lights and stuff like that are just illuminating the Earth's entire sky 10% every year and making our nighttime sky that much brighter every single year. I would be more inclined to blame or to say that it is the responsibility of Mother Nature, that the sky is just getting brighter. Now, we can say, okay, yeah, well, we're coming up with more and more lights. And then now the sky's getting more and more bright. So they just put those two together, right? But I think that there might be other possibilities. All right, so check this out. Speaking of the sky getting brighter, there's a prophecy in the book of Isaiah going back to the Bible. This is in chapter 30, verse 26. And it says that the moon will shine like the sun, and the sunlight will be 7 times brighter, the light of 7 full days, when the Lord binds up the bruises of his people and heals the wounds that he inflicted. So what is this saying? This is actually saying that the moon is going to intensify in how bright it is. The Bible predicted this, and other people did too. The sun is going to intensify. It's going to become 7 times brighter. So if the sun becomes 7 times brighter, doesn't it stand to reason that it will become hotter as well, right? Possibly 7 times hotter, right? Very hot. Let's check out this Native American god. I think this is Aztec. I'm gonna have to double check. But this particular god right here, you can see he's all blue. He's always portrayed as being blue. This is one of their sun deities. And he's all blue except for his face. His face is painted pitch black. And I'm gonna give you my theory as to why. This god's name is Huitzilopochtli, or the hummingbird of the south, or the blue hummingbird on the left. Let me explain that, right? This sun god that was painted as being blue with his face black was called the blue hummingbird, or something blue that flies, right? On the left. Now, the actual translation, instead of it saying on the left, it's more like to the south. That's why it says hummingbird of the south. Basically, it's coming from the North Pole perspective, okay? So the hummingbird of the south is the point of focus that spirals around the north. So the sun is always to the south of the North Pole, if that makes sense, right? So this is basically when the sun turns blue, that's this god making his appearance. And I'll tell you how the sun turns blue in just a second, or at least the theory that I have. One of the most important deities in the Aztec pantheon. And a pantheon just means collection of gods, basically. And for the Mexica, or the Mexica, he was the supreme god. He was the god of the sun and war. So there's also a direct correlation you'll find as you do similar studies with war being instigated, that the people become agitated in addition to their base mentalities that they develop over hundreds of years. But just before the apocalypse comes, just before each one of these resets happens, time and time again, I have found that there is a world war. That the mankind has lost its mind and just gone to war with itself, right? So it makes sense that this particular god would be a god of war as well. He's considered the patron of the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, and associated with gold, warriors, and rulers. His calendar name was Setektpatl, or one flint. What else we got here? I think I'm going to move on from this god. It says, as the sun, right? Oh, let me tell you something about this god, too. I don't have to read it. So check this out. When this god was born, or when the sun turns blue, is when this god is born, basically, right? He destroyed his sister, right? Chopped her up into pieces. His sister is the moon. So when you see this blue sun appear with the black face, then the legends indicate that what happens next is that this sun goes to wherever the source of the moon is, and it destroys it and chops it up into pieces, and that the moon falls down to the earth, breaks up into pieces, and falls down around the area of the North Pole. Interesting story about this guy. I think that's all I had with him, at least for now. Actually I have a little bit more. So, the Mexican flag in Mexico, right? The reason that they have a cactus and an eagle on top of the cactus eating a serpent or a snake, right, is because of this god right here. Let me try to say his name one more time. It's pronounced Huitzilopochtli. Huitzilopochtli. So, damn, I forgot my train of thought. Sorry. Man, where was I going with that? I totally forgot. I'm super sorry. Just give me a second. It'll come back to me. Oh, so I talked about how he killed his sister, right? Now you can see in his hand, this is his weapon. It is a blue serpent, right? Whenever these gods are holding on to serpents and stuff like that, oftentimes it represents to me plasma, that this is their thunderbolt of the gods, that this is their lightning bolt or whatever you want to call it. This is their weapon. His is blue plasma, blue light, blue energy or whatever, and that's what he uses to destroy people with. Damn, what was I just talking about? Hold on, let me jump in the chat and see if somebody can remind me. So sorry. I've been on a roll, right? Hey, thanks for all the support in the chat. I super love you guys. Man, what was I talking about? This dude's face turning blue. No, black. The sun god. Oh, that's right. Mexican flag. Thank you. Okay, so check this out. So, the story has it that the Mexican people, the Aztecs, and many other Native American tribes come from a mythical land or a mythic land or a legendary land. The Aztecs' land was called Aztlan, right? Which is very close to being Atlan or Atlantis, right? So they left this mystical, magical, wondrous garden type atmosphere, this paradise called Aztlan. And whenever they were dispersed and they went out and stuff like that, they asked their god, this god right here, who they were following, where they should settle, right? And we've talked many times about the migration stories of people who are trying to get back to the North Pole, but there's those lost tribes and all the directions are scattered and changed around and the sky's changed around and the earth is changed around and people become very disoriented. Tribes, nations alike, they're looking for a way to get back home, but they don't know which way to go. Right? They have to try to refigure it out again. So this god comes up to the Aztec people, changes their name. Basically, that's how we get the name Mexican now. And he says, here's how you know where to stop and to settle. Here's how you know how to find home. You need to look for a cactus with an eagle or with a bird eating a serpent, right? So I'm going to give you my take on what that god was trying to convey to his people. First, I want to show you his face. Okay. Now, just like we talked about, his face is totally blue, right? Oftentimes the body doesn't matter too much. I don't know. But his face is totally blue with black in the middle, right? So if this is the sun, if this is a cartoonification of the actual sun, and if our sun has been changing color over time, which I've talked about on many of my other videos, right? How the sun, how we start off, everything's black, everything's dark, right? There's the black sun basically. And everything's dark for a period of 3 days, etc. And then the light comes back and it flashes purple and all of the sky is purple and there's purple mist all over the place. And it is a purple dawn of civilization. It's a purple dawn of humanity in the world in general. That purple light fades into a red light. That red light fades into an orange amber glow and then into a yellow light. And as the pressure continues to build, that yellow light starts to turn white. And then as it goes from white, it fades into the blue spectrum because it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter and brighter and brighter and brighter. Like sunglasses for me, I have to have those when I go out. But anyways, here's an example. I want to show you an example, okay? This is pretty much a white sun. I believe that there is a hint of blue in the sun up in the sky today. I also think that there's a hint of blue in the moon, in the moonlight as well. But the sun, many people can remember the sun being yellow. Many people can remember the sun being orange, right? Or some people can. Now, if you look up, it is white. That's because it's transitioning. It's getting hotter and hotter. And as it does that, it's going to start turning blue. It will have a bluish white tint to it as it becomes even hotter. And those plasma tubes from above contract and get smaller and smaller and smaller. What happens is the light from the plasma in the plasma sphere above us that has contracted creates a smaller angle when the light refracts through the heavens or through the firmament, right? And it gives us a smaller amount of daytime, and it tightens, so the days become shorter, literally. So the days become actually shorter, and the time in a day becomes shorter, etc. But here's what happens, right? Whenever it goes even hotter from the white, burning hot light, right? Let me just go ahead and show you. This is what the people will see. The sun will become unbearably hot, and as it starts to transition into its hottest point, the only thing that people will see is the corona around the outside because the light is coming straight down from that circle above us, getting darker and darker and darker until you can only see the outer edge of something circular up in the roof of our world, until it gets so dark that it becomes black and it becomes the nighttime sun, the sun that is out at night when it's still dark everywhere else because it's just like a flashlight, right? You can focus the flashlight to be a straight beam, in which case it's hotter and brighter, right? Or you can make it less bright, but you can make it more of a floodlight and you can get more daylight out there, right? I'll show you an example of what I mean too. So let's take a look at some of these, right? I drew a little map diagram here. This one over here on the right, let me see if I could just draw on this real quick. All right, cool. So this one over here on the right, this is an example. None of this is to scale. None of this is actual model or anything like that. It's just to give you an idea, right? That the plasma hits our world, and whenever it is wider above our world, the light comes in and spreads out more wide. It's more wide. We have more daytime. We have more daylight. We have more hours in the day, right? And it lights up more of our world. And the heat is a lot less intense. And that would be this floodlight over here on the right. But then, let me make it a little bigger actually. So see, you can see this is like the source above, and it gives you a little floodlight. But if you make the origin smaller, and you make that that tube of light more focused and thinner and smaller, it gets hotter, right? And that daytime, or what we experience down here on the surface in Whoville as tiny little people, we experience hotter days, like really hot days, and all the way into the point where it's burning the earth and it's setting the earth on fire. Now, I believe what it does. Let's see. Can I? Hold on. I'm gonna do this on the fly real quick. I'm just gonna add a little sun here. All right. I'm just gonna use this mock sun. So bear with me. We'll shrink that down a bit. Boom. I'm going to show you what I believe the sun is going to do and what it is doing right now. So let's say that this is the sun right here, right? Normally, it would just spin around the equator, and in the wintertime, it would fly outwards all the way out here, and that's whenever the plasma tubes around our world are pulsating to their widest point, which sets the sunlight way out here, right? But during the summer apocalypse, it starts to get more narrow. That light becomes more narrow, and it transgresses the boundaries of the Tropic of Cancer. As it circles its way, it doesn't stop. So remember, the winter apocalypse, people expected, they watched the sun to see if it stopped at this point and came back, or if it continued on until it would disappear, right? This is the opposite one. This is the summertime one, where instead of transgressing this tropic boundary, it transgresses the Tropic of Cancer, and it continuously spirals going around, the days getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and burning the earth as it spirals inward, creating a path to Oz, or creating a path to the old land at the North Pole, to the seat of God, etc., to Mount Meru, where it will eventually settle right here. So let me just go ahead and make this the appropriate color, because it bothers me that it's that color. Let's see, we're going to do boom, and we're going to make this more of a blue sun. All right, well, that'll have to work for now. All right, so this sun is going to spiral and spiral and spiral and spiral until it stops right here. That is directly above the throne of God. So now, if you can imagine it in your mind, you can see blue daylight shooting down from this blue ring up in the sky in the place where there will soon be another blue light that shoots upward from within the earth energy. Do you see how it can be seen as a form of Antichrist? That this blue light, this blue sun, is making its way to God's throne on earth at the Garden of Eden or Mount Meru, etc. And it's going to stop. It's going to establish itself upon the heights, just like we talked about before, right? But that once it stays there for a bit, it's going to be replaced, and everything will reverse. So it'll disappear. All of that light that's coming down is going to go into flux. All that plasma above our world is going to go into flux, so it won't provide the light to give us a focal point. It'll go into flux, it'll reverse, and all that energy will be going up and around our world, as well as the inner earth energy filling our world from the inside, which causes that blue beam of light to shoot up and touch the sky, replacing the false Messiah, the false Christ, the false God or whatnot, right? What else do I have here? Oh, this is an example of, how I see the sign that was given to the Aztecs, right? Basically, this is Mount Meru. Okay, this is a childish drawing, but this is like Mount Meru down here. This is the blue plasma shooting up out of it, and little streaks of plasma that come off of it, like little hairs or little feathers or whatever, right? And that plasma beam, that inner earth energy, shoots up, it hits something that is underneath the firmament, that dome, and spreads out around it, creating the arms of this cosmic stick figure in the sky that is seen as so many different things. It's going to have its own plasma that streams off of it, and it can be interpreted instead of a squatter man or a stick figure. It's seen as a bird quite often, a cosmic bird, a heavenly bird, a thunderbird, a phoenix, etc. Right? And what it kind of appears is it kind of looks like it could be like a cactus, and there's a bird eating a snake. And that snake is the tongue of plasma that sort of leaks out of that depressurization point for a while. There's some plasma that still kind of leaks out, and it follows the wind. So it'll be wavy, it'll change directions and stuff like that. Sometimes people saw this as a beak to a bird. Sometimes it was a tongue, plasma tongue, or whatever, of like various gods and goddesses. Sometimes it was a beard. Sometimes it was a horn on the top of a head. This has been drawn in many different ways as those plasma formations moved about in place, right? They danced about in place. What else do we got? I showed you that one already. That's my awesome thumbnail I spent a long time making. It's so simple. I love it. I think that's it. Oh, the Hopi prophecy. Let me not forget the Hopi prophecy, okay? So this is the Hopi prophecy about the reset, about the plasma apocalypse. It says, when the Sakwaha, or the blue star Kachina, dances in the plaza and removes his mask, the time of the great trial will be here. The Hopi believe that only they will survive. So one of the prophecies is that there will be this blue star, right? Even in academics, they talk about how the stars change colors, and if they get hotter and stuff, they turn blue. If they get cooler, typically they turn red and become larger, right? So larger, floodlight, boom, turning red. It's a different color spectrum. Cooler light, basically. More focused, smaller, direct energy, more blue, more hot, more heat. So they say that when this blue star Kachina dances in the plaza, that would be this guy right here. This is the incredible arm wailing, flapping, I don't know what you call those guys, you know what I mean? Those guys that kind of dance around. Anyways, when this Kachina dances in the plaza and removes its mask, now its mask is the same mask of the god that we were looking at earlier, where basically it looks like this. This is it removing its mask, right? Right now the sun is wearing a mask, okay? So that mask will be taken off, and that's why that Native American sun god has a black face with blue all the way around it. And that is the Hopi prophecy. All right, sweet. Well, that's the end of my presentation for now. What I'm going to do is roll the credits. By the way, if you want to have me as a guest and you'd like to have, ask me questions or talk about the plasma apocalypse, there's been an email address up here. Feel free to shoot me an email and we'll talk about it. Check out my website. Go preview my book on Amazon. It's Ancient Oblivion, the Plasma Apocalypse. And I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody for all of the support and all the kind words and everything. And if you'd like to stick around and ask me some questions personally, I'm going to roll the credits and I'll come back and we're going to hang out for a little bit. So until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
So hard to fade away. I try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be
Okay, I'm back. What's up, everyone? Thanks for hanging out with me. If you're just joining us, this is sort of the after chat. I don't know what to call it, but this is going to be way more laid back, or I'd like it to be. You can type in J-A-Y in your comment. It'll highlight on my side, and we can have a chat about the presentation or, about related topics. I'd like to keep it related to the presentation if possible, as much as we can. So I do want to answer a couple people I already saw here. Somewhere in time says, good understanding on colors and plasma apocalypse. Now let's fade into a dance. I like that. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Let's see what else we got in the chat. We got Joe Cool. Thank you. I super appreciate it, everybody. I did have a great weekend with my daughter who flew out to visit her brother and myself. So we had a great family weekend. I did play, I did play some like marathons of compilations of my videos. I'm still trying to like work it into my channel just to see where it fits. You know what I mean? So I appreciate everyone who left me some feedback whenever I posted something in the community section about those compilations. A German translation for my book. Hey, by all means, go ahead. Translate it into German. Go for it. De Baum says, Jay, that was really good. Thank you. You're welcome. I came in late. Is that also the black hole sun? No, this is definitely not to be confused with the black hole sun. The black hole sun itself is not blue. It would actually have more of a magenta corona to it and be red on the other side, or a darker on the other side. The black hole sun is not really a sun, like a point of focus like our sun is. It's just a hole in the sky. When the sky goes dark, so the black hole sun comes after this blue ring of death. I don't know what to call that, the destroyer, okay? The black hole sun comes after this. This is a precursor to what you would see, which is the black hole sun. Just as when the sun gets bigger and bigger and expands and turns more red and goes into the red spectrum and leaves towards the south or towards the edges of the world or whatever, that's also a precursor to the black hole sun, which then makes an appearance afterwards. Good one. All right, let me jump back in the chat. We got, let's see. Sage says there's some great channels that Jay needs to be on. I would love that. I'm open to doing interviews and, people picking my brain about my book or the plasma apocalypse and stuff. I'd love that. Mars Pop says, Jay, how does the blue sun dance affect other planets and Hercolobus or the red planet? Good question. So the legends that I was going over, they indicate that this blue sun god, or that this sun god, that it chases away all of its brothers and sisters. It chases away the other planets and stuff. So what we could expect, and what I sort of interpret that as, is chaos in the skies, right? All sorts of things. This is why we watch the skies for so long. People are looking for anomalies. Right? Ancient people were looking for anomalies. They were looking to see if anything changed its course in the sky. The sun has many stories where it changed its course, that it rose in the exact opposite direction and went the exact opposite way, right? There's also stories about like the winds that this generates, that the sun, as it's increasing in its heat, it makes sense and it stands to reason that it would create wind, right? Like hot winds that start blowing, and following it around or going before it, coming from the east. So these would be eastern winds, if that's the direction that the sun is going in. Been trying to figure out the black hole sun for a while now. You're super welcome. Sue13 says, Jay, yes, you definitely need to do the revelation from the Bible as soon as possible. That's my favorite part of the Bibles, and I would love to, I've been thinking about doing a video on it one day. Yes, I did break down Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun music video. It's a great breakdown. Lindsay says, Jay, you have mentioned in a previous presentation about defending against plasma up close and personal with a sharp, pointy object, aka a sword. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Can you suggest a particular type of metal? So let me expound upon what you're referring to, because others might not know, right? So I was talking about how it seems to me that people, when the world was filled with electromagnetic energy, that there was so much electricity generated that it basically creates like a ghost apocalypse. There's apparitions and entities and phantoms and all sorts of forms of electromagnetic energy. It takes many different forms. And many of the myths and legends and stuff, they indicate that people could fight those apparitions with a pointed metallic object, typically a sword. And I believe that the reason for that is because the sword acts as a lightning rod, right? And I can't remember the science behind it. I can't remember how it says it, but basically it does something. Well, I'm just gonna say it simply put in my own words, okay? But the sword acts as a lightning rod that keeps, that makes it less likely that you would get zapped by electricity, right? That's what lightning rods are for, basically, right? They're not to try to attract the lightning to get it to hit the lightning rod. It's to keep the lightning away. However, it's grounded so that just in case it is hit, it will be redirected, right? Also, can I suggest any particular type of metal? I cannot at this point in time. Sorry. All right, we got Heedful Gibbon who says, JayDreamerZ, as always, great content and awesome people in the chat. Mucho grande. Thank you and yours for the work that you put in. And I love your sense of humor. Hey, thank you. I'm trying to hold on to that. Let's see what else we got. Oh, on a side note, I just watched that movie White Noise last night. That movie messed me up, dude. Like, it started off so cheesy and terrible, and then it just got super deep. Like, that movie messed me up. I might have to do that one. But not this week. This week, we're going to do Cabin in the Woods. Claire Sage says, Jay, does the teaching indicate moving towards or away from the Mount Meru area? So if you see this guy right here, that blue ring, it's moving towards Mount Meru. Right? If you see the sun becoming larger and more towards the red spectrum and it's getting further and further away, it's making its way towards Antarctica. Darklight Empath, good to see you, says JayDreamerZ. Have you found a correspondence between the sky color and the sun color and the growth or the size of life? Yes, I have. So right now, I believe that we are all shrinking and tiny, right? Because the pressure is increasing in our world. And as that pressure increases, it changes the color spectrum from that focal point into our world, giving us a broader range of many different colors and shades. That correlates with our lifespans as that pressure increases, shrinking us all down very small and in part leading to shorter lifespans as well. So the good news to that, and by the way, I'm going to do a video probably tomorrow about the good news of the apocalypse, because I know that many of this stuff is terrifying to some. It sounds scary. Somebody mentioned they don't want to tell their kids because this sounds too horrific, and I get that. I totally do, and I respect that. So tomorrow, and I try to put it in context. I try to always talk about the good side, right? I always want to talk about the good news. So tomorrow, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the good news of the apocalypse. Why is it good? And what you can expect and look forward to. Cloud Spiral says, Jay, could you maybe do a movie breakdown of A Boy and His Dog? Yeah, I'll consider that one. I like that one. That's a good post-apocalyptic movie. I like it. It's got telepathy and phantazoids and some other stuff. The Bomb says, Jay, blue equals female energy. Do we know what the red is? I don't. I feel like they switch every time. So I don't know. I feel like the blue fills the world with the goddess energy or the female energy. And when that blue light is missing, then the world becomes more masculine and more male dominant. Darklight Empath says, I advertise Jay all the time in other chats. Thank you. I super appreciate it. Let's see. Sharon Bostock. That does help me out a lot, because people are like, what? Oh, let me check JayDreamerZ out. So thank you for all the shout outs. Sharon Bostock says, JayDreamerZ, I love your song ending Time to Wake Up. I do too. Tully's in the chat and says, Jay, would the plasma amplify people's psychic abilities and or superhuman-like abilities? And when do the phantazoids come? Yes. So after this happens, right? I believe everything's being amplified now, that the energy is amplifying in the earth. But after the sky pops open and the world goes dark and we go into the post-apocalypse, that is whenever I expect to see everybody's innate superpowers, however you'd like to call that, amplified and return. We'll have superheroes and X-Men and superhero abilities. I'm simplifying all of that, so take it with a grain of salt. And when do phantazoids come? When the sky opens. All right, the sky opens up. Once everything reaches equilibrium and everything's done getting sucked out with immense force, that's when things can drop back down in, or they can visit, or they can come into our world. That's also, they come up from inside of the earth as well. Sage said, she's talking to somebody else. Sharon says, I love your videos. Thank you. Jillian1147 says, Oh, she's talking to somebody else. Let's see. All right, just catching up. We got, who's next? Hector. What's up, Hector? I've been looking for you on Fortnite, Hector. Says, how are you? I love the theme today, and I love it. I'm glad that you do. It's good to see you. The bomb says, can I feel time moving faster? Yes, I can. I mean, I don't feel time moving faster. My concept of time is way different than any concept I've ever heard. But I feel like the sun is moving faster. I feel like entropy is exponentially increasing, which means that we age exponentially faster as we get closer to that reset point. And I can feel all of that. Yes. Let's see. We also got Trid's in the chat. Welcome, Trid. Says we need to build a nice sword do-it-yourself workshop, and after a practice, the move workshop. Imagine doing the He-Man with the plasma stream. Oh yeah, He-Man sword, right? When he's like, I have the power. The girls will go wild. I'm not even completely joking. Okay, well, I don't care if they go wild or not. It's fine. Shadow Hunter says, Jay, by the way, I have a suggestion for a whole stream regarding to one religion, for example, Islam, and it's connected to the plasma apocalypse would be awesome. All right, I'll keep that in mind. I'll super keep that in mind. What else we got? What else? Anybody else in the chat have any questions or comments or anything? We got Heedful Gibbon, who says, I think JayDreamerZ and Archaics are legit closest, most accurate interpretation of these cataclysmic events. Hey, that's one man's opinion, and I'm just one person, and so is Archaics. So please, I don't want to be put on a pedestal or anything, and it makes me feel weird when others are also put on pedestals. But I'm glad. I'm super happy for you. I'm glad that I can play some small part in your path and hopefully add to it. So it's an honor. And I'm sure others will hopefully feel the same way too. Claire Sage says, Jay, as the sun moves towards Mount Meru, will people do better to move closer to it or midway away? So check this out. There's actually many different movies and references in pop culture to this happening. Most notably, the movie Knowing, right? Where the sun has some sort of, what do they call that? Discharge or whatever like that. And it comes in and it burns the earth, right? There's also Crematoria from the Chronicles of Riddick, right? Whenever the sun comes out and it's just showing burning and they have to keep in front of the daylight and they have to keep ahead of it. The reverse of that, another type of that is Into the Night. There's a movie called Into the Night, and its spin-off. Into the Night is where these people have to keep ahead of the sun or ahead of the daytime, and they're stuck on an airplane, so they just stay on the airplane. They just keep on going in a circle, traveling west infinitely to try to stay ahead of the daylight because they'll get messed up. And they also had a spin-off. Let me see if I wrote that spin-off name down. I don't know if I did or not. I did not, but the spin-off version of Into the Night is the same exact story, but it's what's happening with the survivors who happen to be in a submarine, right? And so the submarine is trying to stay away from the sunlight and stuff like that. So those are 2 or 3 really good movie references to this exact same phenomenon. All right, let me jump back into the chat. We've got Raven Fox who says, thank you, sending love. Thank you, Raven. Love right back to you. All hail the mighty Jay. Thank you. Trid says, I really like the presentation. Very consistent story. Resonates and is thrilling, no doubt. Thank you. I mean, at the very least, it's entertaining and interesting to think about, right? All right. We also got The Bomb, who says, Jay, you are the bomb. Thank you. I'm glad others can see these things too. You're very welcome. Joel Dalton says, Jay is not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. I have no idea how to respond to that, but thanks. JJ Organic says, I like Jay. Okay. Okay, let's not be negative about other YouTubers in my chat, please. Keep it cool. I appreciate it. Especially those people who have been guests of mine, right? Sharon Bostock says, JayDreamerZ, thank you for the shout out. My daughter is on my YouTube and shouted out back to you. She got super happy to hear you shout out. You're super welcome. Shout out. What else? We got Glenn Starr who's in the chat and says, JayDreamerZ, what do you believe we can do to help speed up the process? If you want to speed up the process, make a bunch of babies. I believe that there's a direct link between the human population and these reset events that happen. Also, I would like to clarify that mostly I talk about the surface depressurizing, the plasma apocalypse as it pertains to our surface world. Keep in mind that there is an entire inner Earth region that has its own little mini apocalyptic events in the form of depressurization, just releasing a little pressure here, a little pressure there, up into our world, where we cannot release that pressure until the big event, right? So throughout time, you might see instances of what seem to be cataclysmic events that might even happen, like clockwork. And I have a feeling so far that that might be directly related to the inner Earth depressurizing itself from time to time up here into our world. Chronicles of Riddick is fire. I totally agree with you. I like all those movies. I like all of them with Vin Diesel. Man, he's awesome in those movies. I don't really care about him in the other movies that he's in, but all those Chronicles of Riddick ones are mind-blowing. Tully's in the chat and says, Jay, do you know anything about Lilith? I do. My coworker threw me off saying Lilith is the mother of cryptids. Sort of. Lilith, the myths and the legends about Lilith talk about her giving birth to a bunch of demons and demon children and stuff like that. So yes, there is definitely a correlation there. Cloud Spiral says, Jay, I just wanted to say thank you, and I love seeing you do videos with Autodidactic. Thank you. I also enjoy that guy's presence. He's got super awesome energy. Like, he's laid back and cool. I like him. He's a good dude. Let's see. Sage says, glad you're back. Thank you, Sage. Cali Catalyst says, so the sun will be blue and the sky will be red? No. Good question. So we are in the blue sky now. And at the end of the blue sky age, the blue sun appears, right? But it only appears for a time before it's replaced with the blue light or the blue beam from the earth itself. And that would take us into a new light source for our entire world, which I affectionately have termed the theory on that, the Hyperborean electrical arc theory, or heat. Let's see, what else we got? Haktor says, the movie Riddick. I can't remember which one. You're right. Monty Python? Oh, it's something from Monty Python. I missed. No wonder I didn't understand that. Hold on. I can't find your other comment. I forgot what you said. But I'm kind of bummed that I didn't pick up on a Monty Python reference. I mean, they're weird sometimes, but I do like some of their stuff. Mike Saletti says, new concept for me, and it resonates with my intuition. Much love. Right on, Mike. I'm glad to hear that. Like I said here on my channel, I don't try to tell people what to think. I don't try to say people are wrong and I'm right or anything like that. I'm just sharing my path. And if it helps you out, it makes me smile too. Richard Childress says, Jay, I heard Venus came out of Jupiter and Venus made the floodwaters hot. I've also heard that theory that Jupiter gave birth to Venus. Wetchy's in the chat and says, JayDreamerZ, have you ever talked about the Hindu belief in one consciousness shared by all? Yes, I have, many times on this channel. And I will probably continue to refer to that because I believe it's a huge part of my own personal cosmology and my own philosophy on existence. Joe Cool's in the chat and says, Jay, do you see any type of timeline for the next reset? That doomsday clock moves closer. I'm not sure what you're asking me. A timeline? You should probably never, ever, ever ask me when all this stuff is going to happen. Ever. Because I will always tell you I have no idea. Because that's honest. That's true. I have no idea when this stuff's going to happen. I can tell you that it appears it's getting closer and closer based on all the signs that we see, right? And certain signs can clue us in as to what might be next and how close we are getting to those events, right? But I've talked many times about how I don't believe that, or I'm not personally convinced that there are people who, that they can figure these things out and tell you the exact dates and stuff like that when our date systems are so messed up and Mother Nature keeps us on our toes. And this is not something you're supposed to know when it happens. That's the whole point of it. So it's kind of supposed to be a secret. It's supposed to catch most of the world off guard. You know what I mean? Blickaroni. What's up, Blickaroni? I haven't seen you in a minute. Good to see you. JayDreamerZ. In the anime, Gurren Lagann, their coded plasma event begins when the surface world's population reaches 1 million. Yes, like I said, I tend to agree with that. I also share a similar perspective that the population of humanity and humanity's fall or degradation coincides with the apocalypse. right? And I mean, it's very blunt in various religious books. They come right out and say it, like, dear God, please destroy this world because the people are all screwed up. Like I'm saying that in my own words, but that's what like ancient prophets of old would say, basically. Auxiliary Christian says, JayDreamerZ, the Bible says that God is fire. I like that. It becomes cleansing fire to the chosen, yes, who have the spirit/water. Do you know how it would be possible to neutralize a harmful plasma? That's known, at least one version of that is known as cold plasmas. Cold plasmas you can touch. Cold plasma is a fire that you can stand in and not be burned. So I think that might be an interesting study for you. Especially, if you apply that to the old stories of Abraham or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? Or Hananiah, Azariah, and what was the other one? Azrael? I can't remember. But yeah, they stood in the fire and they were not burned. So it's very similar to that. And there's also another good one in The Age of Resistance. What was it called? The Dark Crystal. And so in this new TV series, or it's kind of new, the spinoff that they did of The Dark Crystal, they also have the same blue fire that doesn't burn, or it doesn't burn people or harm them. All right, let's see. We got Sage. Check out Paul's Cook's channel. I have, and I've said what's up. He's given me a shout out a couple times. I love that dude. He's on a trip right now, so if you're watching, Paul, hey, I hope you have a blast, man. I wish I was there with you. I'm super jealous, in a good way. I'm excited for you. I like that dude. Family Chills says, JayDreamerZ, cherubim, blue seraphim, red, they're blessed. I have no idea what you're saying. I'm sorry. Joel Dalton says, JayDreamerZ, Life of Brian, great movie, obscure reference. I also agree. Turbo Christ says, JayDreamerZ, what do you think about the possibility of the bioluminescent marine life at the bottom of the ocean being left over from the bioluminescent period? I do believe that when atmospheric and world conditions change, so will life on this world, that it will adapt and also change. So I think it's very reasonable to assume that in a dark world or a monochromatic world, that plants will change their colors and that they will, do different things like maybe develop bioluminescence where they didn't have it before. And I also believe that DNA, or the building blocks of life that we call junk, or that mainstream academics calls junk DNA, will be unlocked, and that these things are being saved for such a time as this. These things are being held on reserve within us to get us through these times, right? We'll talk more about that tomorrow when we talk about the good news. Trid says, actually, birthing in the Wi-Fi and other fun stuff realm is drastically going down. I don't think that there are actually as many people as the official info says. Hey, I'm not saying I believe the official world's population or the census or anything like that. I'm just going off of my own experience with a bunch of people. Okay. Like I see people everywhere. They're like ants. They're all over the place. So I have not counted them all. I don't know if there's a billion or 10 billion or whatever. I can just tell you that there's a bunch. There's a lot of people in the world. At least that's my experience. Never ask Jay when. Yeah. If you want to ask me like, when is the apocalypse going to happen? I won't be able to tell you a date. You know what I mean? I won't be able to say, oh, it's going to happen. Circle this day on your calendar. Sorry. I can't do that. I don't feel right doing that. Tully says, Jay, everyone I ask about the color of the sun says, yes, it's brighter. My eyes are always sensitive to the sun, and now I squint a lot with sunglasses. I do too. I'm in the exact same boat. Heedful Gibbon says, I agree with that, Jay. Thank you. That's awesome to hear. Clarice Sage says, Jay, reminds me of the movie where the woman was pregnant and the heroes did not want to help her until they found out that she was pregnant. And once they found that out, they did everything that they could to help. Yes. So the world right now is pregnant, right? And it's very much that whole like virgin birth story that goes back for so long. And this is the prophesied child that is to be born, who's going to change the world and save the world and help the world out, etc. And this is also the king in the mountain who stays asleep, the heroes of old who come only when they're most needed. Right? Doctor Who, etc. All right. We're going to wrap things up in just a bit. Heedful Gibbon says, JayDreamerZ, what are your thoughts on the claim that the 1,000-year reign of Christ has already passed and that we might be living in the time? I don't believe that. That's not me personally. I'm not saying it's wrong or anything. I'm just saying, it's going to get worse. Like Where if the hold on. If the 1,000-year reign of Christ has already passed, I don't know. I'm not seeing that just in researching history. You know what I mean? I don't see the only time where I see that Christ reigned was during the Golden Age, which was thousands of years ago. You know what I mean? And ever since then, it's just been kind of falling apart. Or you could say before the last flood, the flooding of the world or the deluge. The Bomb, you're super welcome. Super welcome. We got Janine Todd. What's up, Janine? Janine says, I believe the water vapor canopy has begun. There is worldwide fog. Not in my house. I'm sorry. I mean, I believe you. That's your perspective, but we don't have any fog outside my house, and it's definitely not thick, dark fog like it's described in the Bible and stuff. But yeah, I think all these things have begun, right? We're going to start to see little nuances and changes that lead to bigger changes and stuff like that, and that also includes changes in our atmosphere and weather and stuff like that. I'm too lazy to count all the humans. Yeah. Well, humans, humans will be humans. Richard Childress says, Jay, I like how you said that the earth is heart changed and then the body changed. It reminds me of Trivium, mind, heart, and gut. Our will follows the heart. Yes. Well said. And last but not least, we got Dirk Zink, who says, hi. Well, hi, Dirk. It's good to see you. Thanks for visiting. Thanks for, it's good to have you here. It's good to have all of you here. I love it. I love all the new people that are joining my channel. I love mostly that all of you people in the chat, everybody in the chat is being welcoming to new people, helping out and, answering questions and tossing back and forth ideas and sharing your philosophic beliefs, all for the most part without fighting, infighting, bickering, arguing, absolute statements left and right. You know what I mean? I'm very proud of all of you. I'm proud of myself too for, for making my channel and the things that I do, but it's not just me. It's all of us together. And I love seeing all of you come together. God, humans. Just want to hug you. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you frustrate me, but man, when you shine, it's worth it. It's worth it when you shine. All right, cool. Well, that's it for me. We're going to start doing some hangouts after the presentations from now on. I like it better like this. I'm going to keep the hangouts short too, so that we don't just kind of drag on forever. So thank you for spending time with me. I hope that you enjoyed the presentation and the hangout. And until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
Come